Hello and welcome back to Transfer News Live. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribing if you're new, and turning on the notification bells to stay up to date with the latest transfer news, because it's the half-time stage now, an unusual stage. We've never really had one of these, a half-time during a transfer window. Well, that's where we are. We're seeing a lot of fans panicking as well. So I wanted to talk about what's happened, a little bit of a transfer update, what's gone on in this first half of the transfer window, with it now being shut to let the FIFA Club World Cup do its thing. Following the FIFA Club World Cup, it reopens, and there are a lot of Premier League fans, Arsenal fans in particular, have got twitchy bums right now. A little bit, why are we not doing anything? Why are we not doing anything? Are we bothered? Do we want to win the league? Are we caring about this Premier League next season, or are we just going for second place again? Lots of Arsenal fans showing their concern, and Liverpool, City, getting business done and doing it aggressively. Seemingly, there's going to be a two-horse race, but I beg to differ. I think they're a third club currently doing quite a bit of aggressive business. They're certainly spending money, not to the standard of players at least, and we'll talk about them shortly. But starting with Liverpool. They're the ones that have grabbed the headlines right now. Liverpool with Florian Wirtz coming into the football club. It's not actually official yet, and there are some Liverpool fans that are getting twitchy bums as well, but I can almost guarantee that that's going to happen as well. The figure is incredibly interesting as well, considering that Manchester City was seemingly rejected. Was the reports that City were rejected by Florian Wirtz when the club said no, they've pulled out. They are not interested in signing Florian Wirtz because the figure is so high. Now, the package is currently 150 million euros for Florian Wirtz, which is a British transfer record. An unbelievable amount of money. That comes with connotations, that comes with pressure, that comes with a lot of limelight that maybe Florian Wirtz doesn't want. I'm quite confident that regardless of the figure, Florian Wirtz is as close to a guarantee as a success you're going to get. I can't see many transfers out there that are a certainty to be a success as the likes of Florian Wirtz. Similar to Erling Haaland to Manchester City. There was very few people that doubted Erling Haaland would score goals for Manchester City, and score goals he did. Now, Florian Wirtz, I think he's in that same ballpark of success, almost a guarantee, but he is coming with that price tag. So if there are a few things, a negative connotation you can associate with that particular transfer, it is the price tag. And then you start nitpicking after that. You start thinking, well, maybe he falls out with the manager. Maybe he doesn't like the city of Liverpool. Little things like that that are very unlikely to actually cause a problem for Liverpool, and Florian Wirtz transfer there being a success. I think it's going to work. I think they're going to be happy with the player. And it's going to be an amazing season as a result, because Manchester City are also doing business as well. But just quickly sticking with Liverpool as well, Frimpong, they've officially got that one over the line. Gyokeres sounds like it's round the corner. That one's going to take place in the next transfer window as well. But Manchester City, we thought, well, Florian Wirtz been rejected. This a continuation of the sour feeling of Manchester City's previous season, where it was a bad season. Well, they ended up finishing third, in all honesty. We finished third. That's my club. If you're wondering, Manchester City, of course, are doing incredible business for the figures we're spending. Ryan Cherki, Ryan Aït-Nouri, Tijani Reinders, and you throw in Marcus Bettinelli in there for just a replacement for a third choice goalkeeper. But there's more business to come from Manchester City. But those three players in particular, Cherki, Reinders and Aït-Nouri, for less than the total price of Florian Wirtz, by substantially amount less as well. An incredible amount of business. Now, I think it needs to be appreciated that Manchester City have had a large association of oil cash, oil money. Now, in reality, the City are not spending a large amount of money, or certainly are not on one particular player. They may be spreading their money wisely and approaching it from the market of, we needed a rebuild at Manchester City and we needed multiple players. Squads win titles, you know, and especially when you're challenging on multiple fronts, like the Champions League, the Premier League, the League Cup, and the FA Cup, of course. But so far, Manchester City and Liverpool look like the only sides going for the title so far this season, which has got to be a bitter pill to swallow for Arsenal fans. But I would stress, there is a long way to go. Like I said, it's half time. We have already had the here we go for Zubimendi. Martin Zubimendi seems like he's all but done, and he's on his way to Arsenal Football Club. I think Arsenal have not too much to do actually going into the transfer window. They definitely needed a striker. They needed a goal scorer. That's still on the cards. They're being linked with Gyokeres. They're being linked with Sesko. You know, so there is still plenty of time for Arsenal to do business. Now, I understand the fear factor from Arsenal because of the fact that City are doing business and getting it done. It's like, well, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing it? You know, Liverpool doing their thing as well, and Arsenal fans are worried. But I do think they're going to get the right profile, the right players into the right positions that they need, because I think people are sleeping on Zubimendi, rival fans in particular. Martin Zubimendi is exactly what Arsenal need, and that's going to unleash Declan Rice as if he needed unleashing, because last season I think he did a little bit, but he still managed to produce a high G&A for Arsenal last season. Unleashing Declan Rice further, allowing him to drift closer to being a 10 rather than an 8. He is predominantly going to play as an 8, but he's got less responsibilities behind him now with the likes of Martin Zubimendi, where I would stress that Partey was a good player on his day, but he had a mistake in him. He was often making mistakes, and if he wasn't playing, it was Jorginho, and then Declan Rice had to look over his shoulder even more so. So freeing up Declan Rice and having that platform to play off, that platform being Martin Zubimendi, with Odegaard on the other side of it, I think Arsenal's midfield, if those three stay fit for the majority of the season, they've got a title-challenging midfield there. They need a striker. That's where they're going to fall down potentially. If they don't get the big players in, the goal scorer that they need, whether it's Gyokeres or Sesko, they need that player, and it's essential that they do that business. And if they don't, they are in big trouble. I think they are going to flounder around second and third again next season if they fail to bring in an out-and-out goal scorer, someone who can bag them that 20 goals over the course of the season. Guaranteed 20. Minimum, really. Minimum. Then you look at United as well. Arsenal fans are equally a little bit worried seeing United doing business. They're down towards the relegation zone last season, yet United are still doing business. £75 million for Matheus Cunha has been announced, which is a large amount of money. Wolves are laughing all the way to the bank, and they needed to this season because they're selling Ryan Aït-Nouri to Manchester City for £31 million, and £75 million Matheus Cunha going to Manchester United has equated to over £100 million recoup this season. They needed that, Wolves, because of PSR, but Manchester United, I would argue they need even more. That one Matheus Cunha is not going to turn Manchester United into a relegation-avoiding side. It pushes them to mid-table, Matheus Cunha. They need so much more. All over the pitch, there's areas of weak spots. A goalkeeper. Have they got solid enough centre-backs? Is Casemiro good enough to hold down that defensive midfield role on his own? Is Ugarte a good enough signing? What about the wing-back system that they play? Do they not need to have a better, more predominant wing-backs? With Dalot on the right wing-back side, is he good enough to hold down that position for the course of the season? They need a goal scorer because Højlund has just been floundering. A huge amount of money was spent on Højlund, and he's just not delivered. And out there are apparently no strikers. It's a dying art. When people saw Haaland come to Manchester City, people said there's just not enough players like Erling Haaland in the market. There are 4 out there right now. 4. Gyokeres, Sesko, Ekitike, Osimhen. There's 4 available strikers that are all there on the market. And Arsenal, United, they're all waiting to find out which one they get. The fact that they have 4 to choose from, Osimhen is probably lower down on most of the pecking order for Arsenal and Manchester United. But Gyokeres, Sesko and Ekitike, there's pros and cons to all 3 of those, in all honesty. I think you get a bit of youth with Sesko. Gyokeres is a bit more of a certainty. I think he's a more proven goal scorer currently, even on the big stage. I know he's playing at Sporting Lisbon, but he's banging them in the Champions League for fun, making it look easy. But then, his age, the fact that he's already 27 years old, you are buying him for the peak years right now. Whereas Sesko, you could see that more of as a bit more time needed, potentially being on the younger side. He's got years ahead of him, more of an investment, but still got goals to his name as well. Not quite to the level of Gyokeres, but still a goal scorer with more years ahead of him. So there's pros and cons. Ekitike, though, he's got a massive price tag associated with him, with Liverpool reportedly linked alongside Wirtz as well, for £100 million. So there's players out there. Osimhen, for me, there's something off about Osimhen in terms of the whole situation. Why are no clubs swooping in for him, for me, I think is an interesting one. I think Osimhen, on the whole, there's something just a bit fishy as to why he doesn't seem to have a whole host of suitors. The talent is there. There's other question marks around Osimhen for me that I'm speculating in all honesty, but still question marks around Osimhen. And then, of course, Chelsea. They're the club that I think they're quietly going under the radar a little bit. They're signing Liam Delap. There's a striker. There's a goal scorer there. Not quite to the level of Sesko or Gyokeres, and certainly not to the level of being proven, at least. But there is so much prospect there for Liam Delap, a former Manchester City player. He knows where the back of the net is. He scored an okay amount of goals considering he was playing in an Ipswich side last season, but I think he will go to another level in a Chelsea shirt. I think they've signed a very good player there, and Chelsea have actually quietly spent over net spend over £100 million, around the same as what Manchester City have spent. But not many people are talking about Chelsea with the fact that Liam Delap, Estugo, Estavo, Sarr, and Fires have come in as well. Like big players coming in that are under the radar type players, not really proven. And I think that's where Chelsea have managed to go and slip under the radar a little bit, because they're not blockbuster names. They're not high profile players. They are players that are, and spreading their money potentially wisely, kind of similar to City's approach, buying multiple players and spreading the cash over a squad rather than one particular player, like Liverpool's approach, 150 million on Wirtz. It's a different approach, and it gets a different level of attention from the media as a result. Then, of course, you've got the fringe clubs, your Newcastles, your Nottingham Forests, both of those incredibly quiet. Spurs have spent a little bit of money in recent times as well with a new manager coming in, Thomas Frank. Brentford have also spent a reasonable amount of money as well. They've spent about 36 million so far in this transfer window, but they have bigger concerns. Go looking at Thomas Frank. How are they going to replace him? Is Thomas Frank going to be a success at Spurs as well? There's so many question marks outside of the big traditional clubs that are likely going to be challenging for the league next year, as well as those fringe clubs. And the rest of the Premier League, barring a few, are just very, very quiet right now. And I think that's why maybe Arsenal fans could probably rest a little bit easier knowing that it is half-time. They don't need to worry about the FIFA Club World Cup. And the transfer window opens for the bigger portion of this particular transfer window after the FIFA Club World Cup. And that's when I think it's all going to kick off. You've got departures to factor in for these clubs as well. Who's going to leave? How are they going to break even? The players at Manchester City, for example, there's a whole host of them that need to leave that football club. The likes of Jack Grealish is on his way out. Where could he end up? At one of the clubs I've already mentioned. Newcastle, potentially. Possible option for him. Arsenal, maybe. I think they've got the squad built. I don't think they actually need to sell. Really. Liverpool, Darwin Núñez, is he going to leave the football club? There's departures that are going to happen towards the end of the transfer window. And I think that's what makes it interesting, is the fact that these clubs are making sure they get their business that benefits them predominantly from a footballing standpoint and getting the players in first, and then we'll balance the books later by offloading the players that can be offloaded, and we'll see what happens at the end of the transfer window. But what is your club feeling like right now? What do you think about your particular transfer window so far? And factoring in its half-time, are you worried? Are you worried, Arsenal fans in particular? Do you want to see more business being done quicker at the beginning of the reopening of the next transfer window? Let me know your thoughts. Like and subscribe to Transfer News Live, and I'll see you in the next one.